What's up, alumni? Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host and guide, John Steele, and it is so good to be back with you here in 2025. We're kicking off a new series today, but first, I have an announcement for you. If you're listening to this podcast, but would rather watch it, you can officially start enjoying your favorite alumni podcasts on YouTube, both After 4 and InterVarsity World Changers. So head on over to YouTube, subscribe, and enjoy actually getting to see me and our amazing guests discuss topics that will help you thrive in this transition to life after graduation. All right, on to our first episode of the new year and of our new series. Here at the beginning of 2025, we're focusing in on a topic that's extremely familiar for many of us at this time of year, and that's health and wellness. It's a common time to take stock of life rhythms and begin charting a new course for taking better care of ourselves. The problem is that we often take on more than is realistic, or we just don't establish a clear, simple plan. Well, this week's guest is going to help us fix that and get a much better start this time around. Mackenzie Green is a health and wellness coach with years of experience coaching people in a variety of contexts to make clear, personalized plans for pursuing healthier life rhythms. And today, she's going to help us narrow in on one or two aspects of wellness and develop a realistic action plan that's sustainable and tailored to our specific needs. So let's get started here at the top of 2025. Here's Mackenzie, and this one's for you, alumni. Mackenzie, welcome back to After 4.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
Yes, I am really glad that you're here, and we're gonna talk about something totally different than we talked about like 6 months ago or whenever it was that you were on the podcast the last time. And I'm excited to do that. But for our listeners who are joining us for the first time or maybe didn't catch your previous episode, would you take just a minute or two and give us an introduction, Mackenzie?
Yes, for sure. So yes, it's good to be here. A few things about me. I live in Champaign, Illinois with my husband and my 1-year-old son.
Nice.
My degree is in intercultural studies. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, and I now work for InterVarsity on the alumni team, which has been awesome. I love it. And yeah, just a few other things, hobbies, things like that. I've tried to cultivate hobbies over the years that contribute to health and wellness, both mine and others. So at this point in my life, I genuinely enjoy just like going on walks, going on runs sometimes by myself just to get away and have that quiet time. And then a lot of times with other people. It's a great free social it's a free friend date, and you get the benefits of everything else with it too. So I love going on walks, going on runs. I love spending time with my family and just taking any opportunity to learn something new. So podcast books are definitely a big favorite. And other than that, I think another really important thing for me, I don't know if this counts as a hobby, but just the opportunity to get away with like some extended time with God in like a retreat setting, whether sometimes that's just like an afternoon in an empty room at my church. And sometimes that's like an actual retreat center or something. But those are times that I really value. And if I go too long without them, I really miss. So those are some things that I love that bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Mackenzie, it's great that even just the ins and outs of your everyday life are just leading us so nicely into the things that we're going to talk about today. And, you're helping kick us off here in 2025, brand new year, brand new series. We're talking about focusing in on wellness and what does it look like for us to take care of ourselves and to spend some time examining what are those places that we can keep growing in wellness. My hope is that for our listeners who are tuning in, for our audience members, that they can walk away with a workable framework for just getting started, for taking healthy next steps in personal wellness. But before we do either of those things, you've already alluded to this a little bit, but Mackenzie, can you just give us a short tour of some of your background and your experience with wellness in even a professional setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So It's funny, when I was in college, I had even heard of a wellness coach or anything like that.
Okay.
So, but it was in working at a hospital after graduation that I was given the opportunity to be trained as a wellness coach. And that was a really big blessing, unexpected blessing in my life. So yeah, after I got the certification, I was able to become the wellness coordinator at our hospital. Where I worked. And through that experience, it was really neat. Just a small group of us were able to collaborate and open up a wellness center for our community and begin to offer all kinds of lifestyle change groups. So things like diabetes prevention program, freedom from smoking groups, healthy living groups, and one-on-one coaching. And that was to like patients, the community, and hospital staff. So that was just a really neat experience. And then after I moved and started, I left the hospital, I began working in a corporate coaching setting for a few years as well. So that was really good. But I'd say it's a joy and a blessing to be able to partner with people as they try to make changes in their lives. And my clients just were inspiring. And I learned so much from them. I really feel like I learned so much from them over the years. So it was a great time. Yeah.
That's really cool. And it sounds like you have had such a diverse background of experiences of in a hospital, in a corporate setting, in a community setting, one-on-one with people that you've gotten to sort of work through wellness conversations at a number of different levels. And so that's really great to have that kind of background. It makes me even more excited that you're the one here helping us kick off this new series. So, then Mackenzie, based on the things that you've learned, the experiences that you've had, can you help us just sort of wrap our minds around the idea of wellness? Again, this thing that I think we all sort of have some intuition about what it is, but maybe we would struggle to really boil it down to like, what do we mean when we talk about wellness, and what are some of the important components of it?
Yes. So I don't love the term wellness because of some of the things it's associated with, but that is what we use. So we're going to go with it. But a lot of times people think of these fancy like spa days or taking a bunch of expensive supplements or something like that when they think of wellness. And that is not really what we're going to be talking about when we're talking about wellness. So
we're not going to be talking about laying on a table and somebody like whacking you with leaves and things like that as branches.
Go for it if that's what you want to do. But that's not what you need to. You don't have to have a bunch of money to practice and
perfect. I'm in.
Lean into wellness. Yes. So I want to define wellness as referring to the process of moving towards health in every area of your life.
Okay.
So the process of moving towards health in every area of your life. And I really want to highlight that word process because it's about which direction we're heading.
Okay.
It's a journey. It's not necessarily always an easy journey. Like change is almost never easy, but it's a positive one. And it involves the process of developing daily habits and practices that can help us live into our God-given potential, adapt to challenges that come our way, and just contribute to society, live out our calling, all those good things that we want. So, and there's different components of wellness too. So I mentioned growing in health in every area of your life. So the National Wellness Institute divides wellness into 6 main categories, and that's emotional, physical. So think of your body, like taking care of your body. Intellectual, which is how are you being challenged mentally? What are you learning? Occupational can be paid or unpaid work, but it's like what you're doing with your time, what you're doing. Yes. And then spiritual and social, so your relationships. So those are the 6 main areas, and each one overlaps and impacts the other. So it's not like they're separate boxes necessarily. Yeah. One just easy example is if you take care of your body, you're going to notice the difference emotionally. You're going to feel better mentally and emotionally. So that's just one example. But
Yeah.
does that help? How does
Yes, that's really helpful, and I think clarifying that there is overlap for all of these. You say it's a process, so that means like, okay, it is a commitment. This is sort of a long haul kind of thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
And that it's also, in sort of like all aspects of life. So as I hear you talking about that, it seems like there could be potential because of length of time and just the amount of places that you could focus, that people could be overwhelmed with the number of different ways that you could focus on wellness, diet, sleep, mental health, relationships, whatever it might be. So this is where I'm hoping we can lean in for kind of the rest of our time for the most part, is how do you recommend somebody goes about discerning where to start on their wellness journey? And if we could walk through even some steps of like, okay, here's kind of the process that I would encourage you into.
That is a question that we all need to ask, because it is overwhelming when you think of wellness and think like, wow, this is every single part of my life. Where do I even start? So we do need to pick a place to start. That is key. So, but what I want to say first, before we talk about narrowing down, is that it can be really important and helpful for us to start by actually zooming out even bigger, you could say, and taking some time to envision what health and wellness would look like for you personally, because we all are so different and our environments or our circumstances are so different. So this is all hypothetical. John, you don't actually have to answer these questions, but if don't be scared. But if I were coaching you, John, I might say something like this. So, okay, John, if you're open to it, I want to just invite you to use your imagination with me for a second and just pretend. Okay, so go with this process with me for a second. Yeah. Imagine I go to bed tonight, I wake up tomorrow, and I wake up this healthiest version of myself.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? What does that, like, how do you feel? What kinds of things are you regularly doing, like on a day-to-day basis? And so again, we're talking right here. This would more be like on your own time, go and reflect on this, but that can be really helpful for someone to sit down and start. And just like, if you're creative, you could draw a picture. If you want to just like make a bullet point list of like some things that pop into your mind, great. It doesn't matter. But the point is, just to think about what that looks like for you and kind of have a destination in mind.
Even just that idea of waking up the next morning, is that I wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and like ready to start. I feel like I'm energetic. I have the energy that I need starting my day off. Because for me, the start of my day is jumping right into morning routine with two little kids. And so, which then leads me to the next place of wellness that I would want to keep growing in. And that's that I know how to interact well with the people around, that I walk away from my conversations with my kids, with my wife and other adults, whether that's friends or coworkers, feeling good about the way that I have interacted with them. So like if one of my kids if my 6-year-old is frustrating me during our morning routine, that I'm able to have healthy, thoughtful responses even in the midst of being frustrated. So like that's a place of interacting with my kids that I would want to grow in wellness. And that and for my physical body, that would be the other one that stands out to me, is that it doesn't hurt to move. That would be another that I feel loose, I feel able to like play, and I feel able to jump into exercise and activity. Those would be some of the things that stand out to me immediately.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing. So there's that component then of just having energy and feeling refreshed. There's that relational component of interacting in really just like healthy, loving ways with your family. And then there's that physical piece where you're like, I just want to feel strong and like able physically.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's perfect example. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that. And like I said, the point is to think through, what do you want more of in your life and why do you want more of those things? So the what and the why. Because for so many people, it's so tempting to start with the negative, like, wow, I really should not eat like donuts every single day of my life, or I should really not watch TV so much or whatever. So that's where a lot of people start when they think about wellness, is like all the things that they shouldn't be doing. And that might be true, but that kind of thinking really tends to just kill motivation and make you feel bad about yourself, make us feel bad about ourselves. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you and all of us can connect on an emotional level with a positive vision of a healthier version of ourselves, we are much more likely to be able to change and establish healthy habits that last. So it's like that emotional connection with this. What do I want more of and why? What does that look like? And then you kind of have that destination. You can figure out how to get there, probably take lots of different paths, but that is big picture, I'd say, where to start. But we do need to narrow. So we do need to
all right. Yes, let's
keep
do that.
moving towards an area of focus, like we said, because it can be overwhelming. It can be inspiring to come up with like that bigger vision, but also like, wow, I am not there right now. So it is important to keep narrowing the focus. So the next thing I would suggest that someone would ask themselves is, and God, ask yourself, ask God, what is the most important thing and the most possible thing that you could focus on right now at this point in your life? Like considering your circumstances right now in life, what feels most important and most possible to start with? So picture all those things that you mentioned, your relationships, your body, all these things. What feels most possible and important right now?
I'm going to say like leaning into what are the things that help my body feel better physically, because I know that when I feel better physically, like the ripple effects of feeling better physically, those things have significant impacts on the way that I interact with my kids and the healthy decisions that I make, like going to bed earlier, more frequently, getting more sleep. So to me, that feels like the one that has the most potential to be kind of like a central thing that then has ripple effects of health in these other areas.
I like what you said about ripple effects. A lot of people refer to exercise as a keystone habit because once that's in place, it really does have so many ripple effects into other areas. So won't go into that a ton, but let's just say, okay, so you said the getting just like stronger, more flexible, and feeling good physically when it comes to like exercise and that kind of thing. So now we can get practical with that.
Okay.
So I would just ask you and the listeners, just what ideas do you have? What ideas do you have of ways to get more physically active? What have you tried in the past? A lot of times we have all these resources and all these past experiences that could be really helpful, either in showing us what we like or what we don't like. So you can cross some things off your list of ideas if you know that in the past you just hated them. So there's no right answer. It's just like what thing would you enjoy and actually do? So what ideas do you have for ways to get more active? What have you tried in the past? What information or people or environments do you think would be helpful in helping you stay motivated and achieve that goal? And then once you've kind of brainstormed, like done some brainstorming, just pick something that sounds most promising and experiment with it. And so let's just, as an example, say that you decide, okay, I'm going to experiment with walking my dog for 30 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just try it out and try to make it as enjoyable as possible. If you're more of like, you need some alone time, pray, walk, listen to music, listen to a podcast. If you feel like you would really enjoy a social time, get together with a friend or somebody that you're mentoring or a mentor and just like make it fun, make it make it enjoyable. And you probably won't do it perfectly. You'll probably miss some days, but that literally does not matter. That is not the point.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah, the point is that you keep showing back up and you'll start to experience the benefits. And I'll say this probably too many times, but wellness is the process of getting healthier in every area of your life. Does that help? So that's kind of the big thing. Just to summarize, it's like the bigger picture and why. Like, why do you want that? And then just picking one thing that seems important possible to focus on, brainstorm some ideas, and then pick one to experiment with and just do it. Just try it out. Yes. Don't put a bunch of pressure on yourself. Just experiment with it and build when you're ready. And that's how you can start making progress.
Yeah. And it feels like one of those things that if the thing that you decide maybe doesn't feel as accessible as you thought it would, or as enjoyable, like maybe there's a place to spend some time examining, like, okay, but was there a part of this that still felt like it had potential? And so maybe they're like, rather than just throwing the whole thing out and saying like, well, I've got to come up with a whole nother activity instead of walking my dog for 30 minutes 3 times a week. And it's like, okay, well, maybe your dog is super annoying. And so it's like, well, maybe I can ask somebody else to do that. Or maybe that's not the place that I'm going to focus on wellness while I'm doing that, because it's really just distracting me. And so I'm, yes, I need to walk my dog because my dog needs exercise too. But the place that I'm thinking about my wellness will be on that, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday when I go out for a solo walk, or, whatever it might be. Maybe there's an element that you could lean into and like, let me try this and just sort of tweak what I was doing before just feeling like you have to completely start over again.
I'm so glad you said that. And that is really key to why I use the word experiment, because it's like, oh, this version didn't work. What went well? Don't start with what didn't go well. Start with what went well. Like, what did you enjoy? And then also like what didn't go as well that you might want to make a shift to.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's, So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's you're almost never going to find like the perfect solution right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mackenzie, I think that we could keep leaning in and getting even more detailed in these things. But I think we've given people a good starting place. There's another question that I want to ask though, because there are many of these things that we've talked about that you can find lots of different places. But one of the things that my hope is happening as people are engaging with the After 4 podcast is that they are being encouraged in all of these different ways to keep saying yes to Jesus long after graduation. And so my question, and I didn't really ask you to think through this ahead of time, so we can workshop this together. Yeah. But, what feels like, or how do you think a pursuit of wellness helps you keep saying yes to Jesus in this season of life after graduation?
I think God is a healing God, and that God is always trying to bring like new life and health. And you could say wellness, or the biblical word would be shalom. But like this peace and well-being into our lives, both for our sake, because he loves us, we're his kids, but also for the sake of the world. And so I think we could all just think into our lives of like the work that the Spirit has been doing in us. And it's always like trying to heal something or helping us to grow into the person that he created us to be. And so to me, we keep saying yes to Jesus after graduation. I think if we do that and we keep this broad idea of wholeness and wellness in mind, we can ask God, where do you want to start? And then pray, turn over each of those areas to God slowly but surely. And he's going to do his work. And we don't have time to get into theology of suffering and all these things that we're not going to
sure.
be, we're going to get sick and we're going to have these really rough things that we have to deal with in life. And yet I think now or in the age to come, like all things will be healed, all things will be well. And so I think he's at work doing that in us now.
Yeah. I think that's really great. And I think that I wasn't really considering this until as you were talking, but I think you already even set us up for this in your beginning explanation of wellness. And that's that each one of these elements impacts the other one. And so like, as we are leaning into wellness, like spiritual wellness and our relationship with God, our understanding of what it looks like to pursue Jesus in this new season of life, that is impacted by all of these other places. We know that we are communal beings, like that God created us to be relational. So as we are leaning into healthy relationships with other people, we are leaning into spending time with other image bearers who are also on a journey with Jesus, and that they are helping us in that. So as we lean into making friends, like we're also leaning into new opportunities to keep discovering Jesus. As we lean, just like for me, that as I'm taking care of my body physically, I'm spending less time feeling the aches and pains and thinking about how hard it can be to move around. I have, like, my lower back is one of the things that gives me the most trouble, which is a tall person problem, but there's also like injury in there as well. But that if I'm spending less time thinking about the aches and pains in my body, my emotional bandwidth is freed up to think about other things. And like you said, there are places in suffering as well for us to draw near to Jesus, that when my body hurts, that's a place for me to identify with Jesus. His body hurt. Like, I mean, his great suffering, that there's like small places where I can lean in, where I can identify with Jesus for sure. We can't just throw out those things. But I think, like you said, as we lean into wellness, those circles interact with each other, and I think they prop up our continued growth as followers of Jesus as well.
I want to reiterate that again, just that it is for our sake, because God loves us, but it is also for the sake of the world. And I think that's true of spiritual formation. Any of the spiritual disciplines, it's for our sake and our relationship with God, but it's also for the sake of others. The way we show up is different when we are growing.
Mackenzie, as we start to draw our conversation to a close here, is there like one final piece of advice or a pastoral word or something, a word of encouragement that you might have for an alum who is wanting to get started or wanting to continue in a healthy way? Maybe they've already been on a really great journey of wellness, but this is a new season of life that can sort of knock you off your feet because just so many things are different. Is there a final word that you would have for an alum as they are taking steps in their wellness journey in this season of life?
Yes. Thanks for asking. I think so. A couple things that I would like to end with are a couple of just practical recommendations and then some encouragement. So when it comes to the physical aspect of wellness, this is maybe nothing new, but I think it's good to just have some maybe benchmarks to aim for long term when it comes to physical wellness. So these are just a few things that our bodies need in order to function the way they were designed to function. I'm going to list off some things, but in order for our bodies to effectively regulate stress hormones, we all want that, optimize brain function, prevent sickness and disease, promote gut health, maintain a healthy weight, and so much more. I could keep on listing forever. In order for our body to do all those things that they were designed to do, our bodies need at least 7 hours of sleep a day, at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity movement, physical activity of some kind.
Okay.
Which breaks down, think of like a 30-minute walk 5 days a week.
Okay.
That's like a moderate intensity sort of activity. Yes. So 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity a week plus 2 days of strength training.
Okay.
of some kind. Doesn't have to be a long time, but just doing something to strengthen your muscles.
Mm.
And then lots of nutritious foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy proteins. So again, it's that 7 hours of sleep. It's the physical activity, 150 minutes a week and some strength training, and then healthy, nutritious foods. Those are things that our bodies just need in order to do what they were designed to do. And if you won't start there. Like almost, there's a tiny fraction of people that actually do all these things.
Yeah.
But if you are able to just know that that's like what the experts recommend and slowly inch your way towards that, that's great. And it'll start to make a big difference in how you feel over time and how you function and your mobility and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of a quick practical note that I wanted to mention in case it's helpful. And the last thing, once again, that I will say is that this is a time-intensive process. And the point really isn't, maybe someone would disagree with me, I don't know. But in my mind, the point is not to arrive. It is to become, over time, more mindful of your choices, to have a growth mindset towards your life, and to establish healthy habits that help you thrive over the course of years. So we don't need to feel like we should be able to change right away. It's very rare. I know that it's so tempting. It's so tempting because we all want the quick fix. We all want the magic pill, the change your life in 5 days or something. Things that like get our attention on TV or on social media or whatever. But like that, just, I hate to say it, but like that is not how almost nobody can do it that way and make it sustainable over the course of years. So try to enjoy it, learn from the days that don't go well, surround yourself with people and environments that will help you with your goals rather than detract from your goals, and celebrate your progress. And I would say, too, that it's true that God's with you and will help you and guide you all the way because he is a healing God and he wants us to be well, like we talked about. So that would be the final, I would say, word of encouragement that I offer.
I love that. And one of the things that's standing out to me, just as you're talking through all of those things, the word that you used that I was not expecting you to use as we were talking about wellness is the idea of shalom, of wholeness and completeness, and that leaning into our personal wellness is a part of leaning into the shalom of God. And like, that is so great. And that surrounding ourselves with people that are going to encourage us on that journey and giving ourselves grace in the midst of it as we inevitably mess up, but that like, hey, I'm going to show up again tomorrow and try again. And that each of these just very practical things that you've left us with is a part of leaning into the shalom of God. And that to me, like, makes the thought of taking care of myself even more exciting and just that much more meaningful, that it is part of that story. Which is, just part of an even broader story of shalom, of not just within myself, but of with other people and the world around us, the whole of creation wanting to know God's fullness and God's goodness, and that this is one small way that I can lean into some of that. And so, Mackenzie, thank you so much for helping us get, I think, a really great start to this conversation around wellness. And I think giving us some helpful starting points so that we can start making some of these decisions of like, okay, where do I want to lean in? And what are some simple steps that I can take to start doing that? So, Mackenzie, thanks a lot for blessing us with your experience and your knowledge and just some really great, helpful starting points.
Yeah, thank you, John, for having me. It was really, really fun to be able to talk about this with you.
Alumni, I know this sounds cliche, but aside from the extremely practical steps that Mackenzie gave for pursuing wellness, the thing that stands out to me from this conversation is that wellness is a journey and not a destination. It's a marathon and not a sprint, and it is for everyone. So please spend some time following the steps that Mackenzie gave us and pick one or two places where you and God can pursue wellness and shalom together and begin your journey, your adventure even, toward healthier rhythms in this post-graduation season of life. Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us this week. It was so fun hanging out with you and getting a healthy start to the new year. Alumni, come back next week for a very special guest. My dad is going to be joining us, and he's going to give us a leg up in our wellness journey by applying his professional experience in exercise and nutrition to this season of post-graduation transition. Until then, consider sharing this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Centera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.